Vestibular anatomy lecture. And again, we have moved superiorly, so we have to answer the question, where are we? So here we have our typical landmarks, some of our typical landmarks. We have our crus cerebri, and we have a colliculus. And so, but this colliculus is kind of squashed looking instead of that nice goblet-shaped nucleus that we saw for the inferior colliculus. So which colliculus do you suppose this one is? This is the superior colliculus. And if you have the superior colliculus, you must be in superior regions of the midbrain. So we've now moved right up here. And we still have our somatosensory information. Fast somatosensory for the body is still found here in the medial lemniscus with the legs lateral, shoulders medial. The anterolateral system is now found right here. Slow somatosensory information from the contralateral body, same old, same old. And VTT has both fast and slow somatosensory information coming from the contralateral head, because now we're well above where that information came in from the trigeminal nerve, and so principal nucleus is inferior to this section, so both fast and slow somatosensory information has to be getting through here. All right, vestibular information and taste information has to get through here, but we aren't following those. But we do have a new structure for our auditory system, and that is the brachium of the inferior colliculus. And that is found right here, just lateral to the anterolateral system. So that can be a landmark for you. All right, so let's go ahead and label these. So right here, we have our medial lemniscus. Here we have our anterolateral system. Here we have VTT, which of course has both fast and slow somatosensory information coming from the contralateral head. And then we have our new structure that has to do with our auditory system, so we'll label that as a 6. And the structure is the brachium of the inferior colliculus. And so this information, referring to your pathways chart, is the information in the brachium of the inferior colliculus coming from the ipsilateral ear, the contralateral ear, or both ears. Where does this information originate? Pause if you need to. It's coming bilaterally, so I've only drawn in the information coming in from one ear, but the same thing is happening for the information coming in from the other ear. So as soon as you are above the cochlear nucleus, all of these pre-thalamic relays and tracts involved in the auditory system have bilateral information. So there's information coming in from the right ear as well as the left ear for this single structure on the left side. So the auditory system is massively bilateral because it has to compare teeny tiny differences of information coming in from the two ears, and the only way to capture those differences is to compare them right away. And you'll learn more about that in auditory function lecture. Okay, so let's go ahead and move anteriorly. And this section, our first question is always, where are we? Well, here's our crus cerebri, and here's our squashed superior colliculus. So this portion of the section is the midbrain, and is still superior midbrain. But you'll see there's this whole big chunk of tissue that has shown up lateral to the midbrain, and this is part of thalamus. And right where we have our anterolateral system sitting right here, and in the previous section, just lateral to the anterolateral system, we found our brachium of the inferior colliculus, and now we have a nucleus there instead. Well, that's the target of those fibers. So this is the medial geniculate nucleus, or medial geniculate body. Okay, so we are up, and I haven't been doing this. Oh crap. Let's get this to play again, no worries. I was supposed to be marking where all those previous sections came from, and we're now up at showing the medial geniculate nucleus, but the rest of the section is still here in superior portions of the midbrain. Okay, so let's go ahead and find all the different things that we need to find in this section. Okay, so for fast somatosensory information from the contralateral body, what do we need to find? Pause if you need to. The medial lemniscus. Indeed, and that's right there. What about slow somatosensory information from the contralateral body? What structure will that be found in? Pause if you need to. That's right here in the anterolateral system. What about fast and slow somatosensory information from the contralateral head? That is indeed found right here in the VTT, and that's slow as well as fast somatosensory. Okay, so the new structure is in the auditory system, the medial geniculate nucleus. So right where we had our brachium in the last section, just lateral to the anterolateral system, that the nucleus has shown up. So this is the medial geniculate nucleus. And like I said, vestibular and taste information is going through here, but we are not going to localize it. Okay, so we've gotten our auditory information to thalamus, the medial geniculate nucleus. The next stop is going to be cortex. And here is our primary auditory cortex. So those axons of the neurons in the medial geniculate nucleus will project to our primary auditory cortex. And just like we had a map for somatosensory systems of the body, the homunculus, we have a tonotopic map for the auditory system. And that's shown right here. So this primary auditory cortex, there is a map of the tones with lower tones, which you'll find out in the functional lecture, are going to be coming from the apex of the cochlea, and then higher tones, which correspond to information coming from the base of the cochlea. And the higher tones are located more posteriorly, and the lower tones are found more anteriorly. And then this region over here is just secondary auditory cortex. And that is the last of our lectures for the auditory